narcotics, CPR, and first aid. Yeah. Sports talk radio, highlighting players playing the game. OG advice, wisdom, and knowledge, plus we entertain. Like, comment, subscribe, tap in and listen to James.
Hello. Okay, we're live. Okay, I almost got distracted there. It can happen.
That.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. So, hold on. We got a special guest.
There we go.
For the Post Rise podcast tonight. First, before we get started, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on the Post Rise podcast. We have a lot of different things coming up, some classes, some CPR classes, a lot of different things that I'm going to be putting out. I took a quick break, but now I'm back. I mobilized the studio
Yes, sir.
for this special guest right here. So tonight's guest, and y'all can see him right here. Tonight's episode is special. We've got a coach, a mentor, and a builder. Someone who's been doing this the right way for over 2 decades.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And counting.
Coach Alex Goodman. Over 20 years of coaching experience, from high school programs to AAU organizations to player development at the college level, and now leading at a high level with the Fredericksburg Grizzlies, a semi-pro team.
That's it.
Shout out to the Fredericksburg Grizzlies too, by the way.
Back-to-back champs. Get that in there.
For sure. I ain't done yet now. I ain't done yet. So Coach G, he's built a championship culture with the Fredericksburg Grizzlies, back-to-back national titles.
That's it. 2 times.
And helped players reach opportunities overseas. But what stands out to me isn't just the wins, right? It's the impact. This is someone who's poured into kids and this community for years, developing not just basketball players, but young men and women. Someone who takes the time to teach, to mentor, and to pass the game on the right way. Man. And I've had the opportunity to see him up and close, coaching alongside him at St. Michael, New York Catholic High School, the Warriors. Go Warriors.
Big ups.
Being in the gym, seeing the way he teaches, the way he communicates, and the standard he holds. And on a personal note, even outside of basketball, I remember walking into the Strong Tower in church.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the tower.
Yeah. Saw the brother in church, and I don't think it was a coincidence. I did not expect to see him in there, but I walked into church and saw him in there. It was pretty crazy. I don't think it was a coincidence. Right. It just basically helped reinforce something for me that I already assumed. This is who he is across the board: consistent, grounded, purpose-driven. So for me, this is more than just an interview. It's an honor to welcome Coach G. Welcome to the Post Rise podcast, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
Training for the moments that matter most.
That's it.
So Coach, man, where should I start with you, man?
Let's dive in.
Let's dive in, man. It's been a pleasure, coaching alongside you and everything. But we're gonna go back the origin story. We're gonna go back to Jersey.
Oh, you going back to the ad? Woo.
We're gonna take it back to New Jersey. falling in love with the game, right? So take me back to Jersey. What was in your environment? What was it like growing up, Coach? For you?
Man, I grew up in Trenton. I had 5 brothers, man, and 8 sisters. And, we had a park up the street that was, you wasn't in the house. You was, I was at the park playing ball.
Mm-hmm.
So every day after school, man, growing up, I would go down there. I had to sit around, while the older guys play. Wait till I get my chance. I used to have my own ball and my own net. Say, if you want to use my ball and my net, somebody got to let me play. And after a while, man, I was the guy that everybody was waiting at the park to come to the park so the games could start.
Mm-hmm.
So I went from not getting to run till, everybody waiting on me to start the run. And all my brothers played too, man. I learned, all my basketball from my brothers. I give them all the credit. They really taught me the game. And it's a different game in the hood than it is, in the
For sure.
Gym. So
For sure.
it's kind of where I got that toughness piece from, playing basketball,
Okay. Yeah. So where do you fall within your brothers? You said older brothers?
Yeah, I'm the youngest boy.
Oh, you're the youngest.
Yeah, I got one younger sister. Out of the 15, I'm the oldest boy. Had one brother pass away.
Oh,
But yeah,
so
I'm the
sorry to
youngest
hear
boy,
that.
and I got one younger sister.
Okay.
She works at the games with Carla.
Yeah.
She's the baby of the bunch, and I'm the baby.
Yeah,
boy.
it was actually pretty. Yeah, yo, it was pretty crazy to see somebody bossing Coach G around.
Right. Oh yeah.
I was like, okay, yeah,
They're my coaches.
for sure. So when did you fall in love with basketball?
I think in the park, man, because it wasn't.
The park.
That was the thing to do, man. When
Kids
when
don't
you
go
hooped in the
outside no
park.
more.
Nah, they don't go. Man, and we didn't have all these parks that they had.
Yeah.
You got a park on every corner almost around here, and
Yep.
never nobody in it. So every day, man, that's where the game was at. That's
For
where
sure.
the game was at.
For sure. So who were you watching and trying to play like back then? Like who inspired you back then? Who was your favorite player? Go ahead and take it back.
I think growing up, man, my brothers were, man. Because they taught me the game. I just wanted to get out there and play.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You weren't important if you wasn't on the court playing.
For sure.
I just wanted to get out there and play, man. I didn't really model how I played behind anybody. The work ethic started young in the game because, if you didn't win, you might only got one run in the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
So, that work ethic, you had to play hard to win. Like I say, you might have only got one game in the whole day. So that's what it worked.
Shout out to your bros, man.
No doubt.
It's kind of a similar story to with MJ, man, just kind of like having that sibling rivalry and stuff,
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't recall him talking about being inspired by anybody specifically. I know he talks about his big brother,
Yeah.
who was better than him,
Right.
growing up,
Right.
and when you're close in age like that, and when you have siblings, it just can push you so far. What kind of player were you in high school? Well, we coach high school kids now. They all want to know.
As you can see, I wasn't the 6'6" guy.
Yeah. Okay.
I wasn't the 6'6" guy, but I had no problem with 6'6" guys. Because I was always
stout.
Growing up
Yeah.
in the hood,
Yeah.
if you called a foul in the hood, the ambulance was on the way. Growing up in the hood, you
Right.
called a foul, and
Right.
it was almost a murder. So that toughness growing up in the park. When I got on the high school court, I wasn't afraid of anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because I had done came through the trenches. I knew my talent, and I just had that mindset that I wasn't afraid of anybody. So that's kind of how I played.
Yeah, and I just saw a picture of you. You was stout.
That little size, man.
Yeah, man.
A little swole. Little swole.
I'm like, yo, like Coach D, like he the same size with muscles.
Yeah, about the same size. I see
Like,
people
man.
now say, man, you kind of look like you look back then. Got a few extra pounds on.
Yeah.
That's a lot of years later. But
No, I mean, I know the kids, you hit him with the pad and all. I done bumped into you a couple times. I'm like, oh yeah, Coach G, yeah, Coach G is he a brick wall. He a brick wall.
I make it work.
So what mistakes did you make as a young player that you wish kids understood today?
If I had to go back to one point, in my career, coming from high school, playing high school ball, eventually trying to play college ball, getting recruited. I always thought I had time.
Yeah.
I always thought, well, you know what? We got another game.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm just a freshman. You know what? I'm just a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
And those times that you're missing or you're not giving value to that rep or to that year or to that game, you're really missing out because you can't get it back. The wish I would have or I should have, you can't get that back. And then when you get to the point to where you're out of time and you're not where you're supposed to be at, then you're gonna fall victim to the kid that took advantage of the time. And that's kind of how I got caught in the shuffle.
No, I agree with that, man. I think that time, when you're young, you just kind of feel like time, like you just got unlimited time.
Right.
When in reality, you don't. Those years fly by.
Quick.
I know kids are reclassing right now, but even that 5 years will fly by.
That's right.
If you have that, so.
You think you got even more time now?
No, yeah.
You almost use you use the reclass as a crutch versus getting better to get to the next level.
Yeah, and it's hard to sacrifice certain things, when you feel like you have all the time in the world.
Right.
So that's conversations that we have as coaches.
Oh yeah.
So recruitment. Talk about the recruitment process. You coming out of high school, man. How was that?
Man, I wanted to play Big East basketball, man, because that's what the thing was back then. The Big East with you had Pearl Washington. The Big East was the big boys played in the Big East. The cute boys played in the ACC back then. But the Big East was just tough, and I always wanted to play Big East, and and going through that recruitment process, and then not having the money and offer partials and all that kind of changed my my whole career.
Mm-hmm. Now I remember I recall you mentioned Georgetown.
That's where I wanted to go, man. Sleepy Floyd, all them cats was going there. That's where the New York cats, New York, New Jersey.
Yeah,
they was heavy up in Georgia. We actually had, I don't know, you remember Lonzo Highsmith? He was an Army guy.
Yeah.
He played all Army ball, and then he went to Georgetown.
Oh,
so
okay.
I really wanted to go there, but like I say, being offered a partial and not having the rest of the money to go, and then walking into the recruiting office trying to get more money to go, and then I end up going another route.
So what were you doing at that time? Like what was the mindset? What was what was, because it sounds like you wanted to go there. Like what changed?
I knew I could play at that level.
Okay.
I knew I could play college basketball just by watching college basketball and seeing people from my area go play college basketball. So I knew I could play. My grades weren't all that good. I spent more time on the basketball court than I actually spent doing homework. So my grades weren't that good. And growing up in the hood, I always say people was always worried about my points per game than my GPA. So long as my points per game were good, then everybody would support me. But I wasn't doing my part, in the classroom. And I was, I had that mindset that, I'm better than this guy, and I'm better than that guy. But I didn't know that I was really competing against some guys in Texas and Florida and all, and all that kind of stuff.
Your horizons weren't broad.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I got so used to thinking I'm had an edge because, I know I'm good because I'm better than all of them, going to this school and this school and that school. And then you look up, they signed somebody from New York somewhere or somebody from Texas.
Sure.
That had, a good game and good grades. People with good game and good grades, they're easy to recruit.
No, for
and
sure.
It was like that back then too. So I didn't help myself. Anybody not doing the extra work, inside the classroom and outside the classroom. But, I kind of got comfortable because, like I say, I was better than the people, that I was growing up against.
So, I guess that you kind of answered that a little bit, but if you could go back to that time, what would you change?
One, I'd focus more on my schoolwork. I wasn't a bad student, but I think even athletes today, once season over, we kind of lose focus.
Yeah.
They kind of lose focus a little bit. Long season going on, I'm in school on time because I want to play. So I had to be school on time. So that that kind of held me accountable during the season. But once the season was over, and not really working on my game. There were no trainers like us
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
So player development, like I say, was right down the park.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody never got out no cones or anything like that to do with us growing up. After high school, you go play AAU, you're up down the highway. I didn't really take the time to work on my game. If I would have really worked on my game, and that would have helped me out a lot.
Yeah. So, man, do you see kids today making the same mistake that you made back then?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Even some of our kids, this.
Yeah.
They don't have this rep is important mindset.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's always.
Yeah.
Reps build habits, right? And your habits are who you are on the floor. I tell kids all the time, basketball is a game of habits.
Yeah.
Some people just got better habits. That's why they're better than you. They got better habits. So, yeah, I see it all the time, man. Nobody wants to work hard. It's, it's not cute. Then you sitting around and playing at the YMCA when you should be playing in a Division I school somewhere.
Yeah, no, for sure. Man, that's I can go on and on and on about that one. Coach,
Right,
I got my
right.
own stories in regards to this, but
Right.
it's all about Coach G today. So you transitioned, you decided to join the Army.
Right.
You chose the Army. What made you choose the Army?
Well, I come from a Army family.
Okay.
My sister was in the Army.
Who, by the way?
2 brothers in the Army.
Okay.
One brother was in the Navy shortly, and then I was Army. But the Army was never on the military period was never on my radar, because like I say, growing up, I knew I was going to go to college to play basketball because I was the good kid in the neighborhood that could play basketball. So, all my eggs were pretty much in that basket. And then when it didn't work out, I went and sat down to talk to a recruiter, and you know how recruiters are. I used to be a recruiter too, so I know how recruiters could be. And I thought about the reserves, like say, try to get some money to go to school. So I thought about the reserves, and I can remember my brother telling me that the reserves are probably not good for you because the reserves gonna bring you right back to the neighborhood. The reserves is 1 weekend a month. So if you're gonna do something, just go full time. So that really flipped my whole thing up to where, okay, if I do this thing full time, I'm really not going to go to college to play basketball. So, yeah, at some point it kind of got to the point to where, you know what, let me do that. I'm getting out of this environment, which, as an adult, I probably didn't need to stay in that environment. So I got out of that environment, got to travel. It's my first time on a plane. When I flew to basic training. I was getting a steady paycheck. I was going to do a couple years, try to get some money for school, and holler back at Coach JT like, look, I got I got the Montgomery GI Bill now. If you give a partial, I could do the rest. So 2 years turned into 4 years, turned into 24 years. Standing there 24 years.
24 years. Yeah. Salute to that. Thank you for your service, by the way, Coach G.
Appreciate that. Thank you too, man.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. So what did you need at that point in your life? What was this what do you think you needed at that point?
I think the structure was good. I come from a good, I was blessed enough to come from a house where mom and dad was in the home. So the structure, we had structure in the home. Yeah. Because my dad was a very good disciplinarian. So, and the mom, when dad got his mom kind of picked us back up. Helped us back out. So I had the structure, and I had the discipline, but I don't know if I had the discipline if I would have stayed outside the house. As long as I was going to school and living in the house or whatever, I knew I had to abide by that structure. Right. But I don't know if I would have had that if I would have got out of school and just got an apartment or went to stay with a buddy or whatever. So once I got into the Army, and being around that structure all the time, it kind of, I didn't really have a problem with it, like I say, because the Army's gonna be the Army, but I didn't really have a problem with the structure part. I didn't really have a problem with the physical part. I I think a big thing for me when I first started was being away from home. Because I had never, been away from home from a long time, and with my support system, with all my sisters and brothers, being away from that support system. So I think that was one of the biggest adjustments, just being away and know I couldn't just go back or just go back every other weekend or whatever. So that really was the hard part for me. The physical part. That was tough too, because I wasn't used to working out. I was just used to playing basketball. So that was pretty tough too. Those were some of the challenges that first presented when I first joined the military.
Yeah, and those like first few years after high school, especially if you don't have a plan, it could be really dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like those years are you're very receptive, and whatever's poured into you, that kind of can turn you into who you are for the rest of your life.
Right.
So that's why it's very important to have a plan right after after high school. What did the Army teach you? How did the Army reshape you as a man, basically?
Well, it kind of gave me values that I didn't get in the home. As far as teamwork. Kind of like big team. And little teams within the big team, and seeing how, what I did or didn't do could make that other team maybe not be able to do or what they needed to do. So it kind of taught me that. Taught me about don't be a follower. When you're growing up in the hood, that guy, whoever that guy in the hood is, kind of everybody wants to be that guy.
For sure.
But when I joined the military, I knew that I had to be accountable for for everything I did or failed to do. So it kind of taught me accountability. You talk about selfless service and and stuff like that. And it taught me a lot of good values that I even still have today. So it's good stuff.
Now, what's something that the Army taught you that basketball never could?
That's a good one there. I think I know the answer to that the other way.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of the answer to that this way. What's something that the Army taught me that basketball could never teach me? I can't really pick out one thing. I think some things that the Army taught me made me a better basketball player.
Okay.
As far as, leadership and accountability and, just, the military, we don't go into nothing without a plan.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
And it taught me to plan in the game of basketball. The Army taught me to plan my every move. You hear people say, and we're probably going to get into it later on, to where people say, you're playing chess, and you're playing checkers, and I'm playing chess.
Yeah.
I kind of know how I got that mindset, because people tell me that now. Because you already like 5 or 6 plays ahead of the game.
Yeah.
So it taught me to not just focus on this, but focus on that and that and that.
Yeah, we kind of, in practice, we talked about that, about how, a team will take away your first option. Like focus on, those 3rd, 4th, and 5th options.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like focusing on that. Like
Right.
having a plan for, just expect the first things to go wrong.
Right, the first thing's gonna go wrong. They looked at that on film for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
that ain't happening. The first thing.
Good point. Good point. See, because my next question was going to be, how did you bring what the Army didn't teach you, that taught you that basketball couldn't? How did you bring that into coaching today? That sounds like you kind of answered that question already.
Oh yeah,
you can elaborate more if you want to, or we can move.
Well, I learned, and you may have heard me say it, that anytime I walk into a room and nobody's in charge, I'm going to take charge, right? Because somebody has to lead this mob, whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
And players look to coaches more than we think they do.
Yeah.
Because I could think back on some of my coaches that even when they didn't think I was listening, I was really listening. I might not know how important what they were saying at the time, but I was really listening.
Yeah.
And it taught me to be humble, right? when you're erratic, your player's going to get erratic. You know, a team just go on a 20-0 run or a 10-0 run. How you come back to that huddle as the coach is really going to affect whether they go on another 10-0 run on you. So, it taught me to be, you know what, it's okay. It's okay. This is how we need to fix it.
Wow, that's actually a great point. And you know what? That's actually a lesson for me as a coach. You know, I recently kind of slammed the clipboard that you got me for Christmas and broke it.
No, not tore up the clipboard already.
Yeah. You know, I'm sorry. I was the team. I think the team went on like a 13-0 run. This is exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then I slammed the board. Just frustration. And the team, they came to the sideline and they were flustered and I was yelling and they were yelling. And then I said, okay, then I had to bring it back.
Right. You can't
So,
panic.
yeah, exactly.
If you panic, if they see you panic, it shows them you don't have the answers.
Yeah.
But when they see you calm, you know, they'll look at you like, dude, they just went on a 10-0 run, and coach comes back to the huddle, and he's just, okay, we're ready to go into this. Let's run X, let's run Y, let's run Y. You know, he's so nice, cool, and calm.
Yeah.
And it lets them know that coach really think we could come back from this thing.
Yeah.
And then they'll respond
Good point.
in that way.
Good point. Yeah, it happened. And I keep my cool normally, but it was just one of those things where, you know, they were not doing what I was telling them to do.
That's
you
the
know
part
what I
that
mean?
gets you there.
That's the part that like really got under my skin, because you know how you tell them to do something, you draw it up or whatever, and then it just doesn't happen on the floor the way you're like, hey, like this, and it's not like they didn't have the opportunity to do it. They just, you know, but sometimes just, you know, in fight or flight moments, you know, sometimes guys, they start drowning or whatever, they get overwhelmed, and it's hard to relay what they just saw on the board to the floor. You know, a lot of kids struggle with that. So, yeah, man, good stuff, Coach. See, you got a wealth of wisdom, man. You know, wealth of wisdom. I'm sure the coach has spazzed out back, you know, at some point in his day.
Oh yeah. I get more angry at, you know, a team goes on a 10-0 run, right? That's kind of how I look at it. If a team hits me with a 10-0 run, right, I got to give them credit for a 10-0 run, because they made 5 baskets.
Yeah.
So I got to give them credit for a 10-0 run. What I don't like is when we're not doing what we should have done that could have prevented that 10-0 run. If you just outskill me or outwill me, I'm okay with that. But if I tell you to watch the back door or move your feet, or, you know, we're in the zone and you need to be in that spot and you're not there, then I'll
got you.
Then I'll you know, I'll have a little raise. Then I might go through a couple clipboards there.
Got you. So now, old school versus new school. Okay. You've seen multiple generations. What's the biggest difference between how you came up and how kids are coming up now?
I think back in the day, we were trying to get out of, most people that I've seen make the jump from high school to college, we were trying to get out of situations.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so, and
for sure, that
whatever
ties into
it
your
took
game
to get out of that situation, that, you know, we were willing to do it with the minimum assets that we had.
Yeah.
You know, kids nowadays, they're more talented because they got more assets or things, you know, like the training coming up, training or whatever coming up.
Sure.
So they're more talented, but I don't think their work ethic, most kids or a lot of kids that I'll say, their work ethic doesn't match the work ethic that we had back then.
For sure.
And our talent doesn't match the talent that they have nowadays. But if we had what they had back then,
I know.
Oh, man.
I know. I mean, I think that it's probably, I don't know, it's probably difficult to be hungry, you know, when you're coming back to like a nice big house and all of these different things. You know, the economy is way better than what it was, you know, back in our day. It was especially, you know, you're a different generation than me, so I'm sure my economy was better than yours. And so, like, parents didn't have a lot of money to do things. You know, if you played AAU back then, you were like the truth.
Right.
You know, it's just like a whole different thing, you know, so that hunger is probably difficult to like manufacture.
Totally different.
Yeah.
If you even in this area, I'll never forget when I first came here and started coaching. And this was, you know, almost 20 years. I think I moved here in 2008.
Okay.
But I see the skill gap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a guy came up, he said, Coach G, if you want some talent, you got to go up past exit 150. I didn't even know where exit 150 was at. But what I learned, what he was telling me was, if you wanted some talent, you need to go up to the Woodbridge area, up in that area. And the Woodbridge area, or even areas like that, is totally different than the areas here. And it goes back to what you're saying when when a kid graduates here, he's. If I don't go to school, I still stay with mom and dad.
Yeah.
But growing up there, where you're leaving here when you graduate.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're leaving here when you graduate.
Yeah.
If you don't have those family values, even when my son graduated, I was fortunate enough he went to college, but he was going somewhere because that's the values that my parents instilled in me. So,
Right.
So, I was going to instill that in him as well.
Right. And I was going to ask, my next question was, are players today more skilled or less disciplined? But it sounded like, you kind of answered as like a combination.
Yeah, I would say both.
Yeah.
I would say, because that's why they're less skilled, because they're less disciplined.
Yeah.
There's too much to do now.
Yeah.
But they ain't doing nothing.
Yeah.
If a kid missed practice, he's probably in one or two places.
Yeah.
In the bed or laying on the bed playing PlayStation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That video games and stuff like that gets them so distracted. Again, it goes back to because they think they got time.
Yeah.
When you miss one practice, it could be something that you learn that day that can get you ahead of that next guy on the recruitment.
For sure.
Move you up the depth chart at that college. So
for sure.
It's important to catch every practice and every rep.
Ball is life.
Yeah.
Is the game evolving in a good direction today?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. It doesn't look like I want it to look, but I think it's more of a business now. I think it's catering more to the ticket holder, which is financing all these contracts.
Yeah.
If you go back to where, the no hand checking and all of that, I believe that was because they wanted the players to move about more freely so they could score more points.
Yeah, for sure.
Because fans come to see people score points.
Yeah.
I could justify charging you $500 for that seat right there.
Yeah.
If they seeing some dunks and stuff like that. So I think it's in good hands, but it'll never be what we saw it as.
I kind of miss those old games I remember. I literally feels like yesterday I was watching Pacers and Pistons. It was like 74, 69.
Well, those were
This is
some
an
battles.
old gritty defensive game where it was like,
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what you had to be tough back then.
Yeah.
Now you just have to be talented. Most of the talented guys if you ask me, most of the talented guys now are not really tough.
Yeah.
They talented so they can carry that swag, but they're not really tough or I don't look at them that way.
What's missing in today's basketball culture?
Discipline.
Discipline, yeah.
Yeah, because so much revolves off of discipline. And when you see these cats like the Cooper Flags and all these guys coming straight out of high school and playing in the pro or going to Duke, 1 year, whatever. You got to look back at the sacrifices that they made, and a lot of them will tell you that I had to cut off friends. I didn't have a girlfriend.
Sacrifices.
I didn't go to parties.
Yeah.
Or, I didn't even own a game module.
Yeah.
Because they knew what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And they knew that it was going to take all of that to do that. So they were willing to sacrifice everything.
Yeah.
Just so they can do what they wanted to do.
That kind of ties back into that hunger, just kind of tying in and for sure. So player development and coaching philosophy. You've been developing players for years. What do you look at first when evaluating a kid?
I would say I would look at his habits. Right?
Okay.
Look at his habits. I could, for doing it for so many years, I can I can go to a high school game and look at a kid and say, you know what, if he worked on this, he'll be a lot better. You know, some people don't have that eye for development. You know, they'll have the broader eye. It was he needs to be able to jump higher, or he needs to be able to run faster, or he needs to be. But you got to know what he needs to do to fix those things. And when I first started training as a young trainer, you know, I kind of was locked into that too, because nobody taught me how to be a trainer. You know, so I kind of was locked into that too. And I remember when I had my first training session, man, it was 2 kids showed up. You know, 2 kids showed up.
Yeah.
to moving on to having training sessions to where, you know, now I have to kick kids out. But I think looking at a player and really breaking down their game, right? You break down their game, break down their actions, break down their habits, right? And then I can break down how I can teach you. You know, you look at I call it the three pillars, right? Others might call it something else: passing, dribbling, and shooting, right? So I could teach you how to shoot, right? I could teach you how to dribble, and I could teach you how to pass.
Okay.
But how much of that you want to learn is up to the player.
Got you.
You know, it's up to the player. And with that, if you get the reps, you'll build the habits. You can't come to training a day and then think, you know, I'm gonna make my high school team next week, or want to come to training 2 days before high school tryouts and want to take that. So I really break down the what leads to that. You know, in order to be a good shooter, what are all the things he needs to do to be a good shooter? And then I just focus there. Well, let's focus on this one first, and then we'll focus on that one, and then we'll focus on that one. I'm not going to teach you everything in one day. That comes back to getting back in the gym. So I really break down what they need to work on, and fix the why. Why does that happen? Okay, well, let's go fix that. Okay, now we're here. Let's go fix that. Now we're here. Let's go fix that. Now we're here. Let's go fix that.
Yeah.
And one thing about me that I think that really distinguishes me is I'm not going to just teach you to do something. I want to teach you why you do it.
Yeah.
That's what's most important, to teach you why you do it. It's kind of like having a bag, but, you know, just think, you know, I always revert back to my military days, right? You know, if I'm on the front line and I see one guy in front of me shooting at me, I'm probably not going to fire a tank round at him, right? I'm going to go use this weapon to handle that.
Yeah.
You know, kids now, you know, they got this bag, but they don't know when to use it or why they're using it.
Yeah.
So I try to break down it. You know, if he's doing this, you know, and man, you know, I could talk about the training all night, but
for sure.
In order for you to be a good offensive player, you got to know what defensive players do. And I always try, when I'm in training, I say, you know what, if I was a defender, this is what I would do. So what would you do? You know, just to see where their mindset is at, and then go teach them from where their mindset is at.
Basketball IQ.
Yeah, I really, really like breaking it down. And I've seen my system work. Only thing changes in my system is the people. You know, so I see it work. I tell a player, dude, I can help you fix anything. Yeah. You just gotta want to come and let me help you fix it.
Yeah. What separates players who make it from those who don't?
The work. The work. There's no substitute for hard work. You know what I mean? You see that posted over places. If you do the work and get with a good trainer, you're gonna be you're gonna make it. You're gonna make it.
Yeah. It's that easy.
Just got to do the work.
You got to do the work.
Just got to do the work.
Yeah.
At some point, right? There is at some point to where I would say that based upon where you're at right now, let's look at this.
Yeah.
JUCO, D3, whatever. I'm gonna make sure I give you achievable expectations. Right? If you're not gonna be a Division I player and I get you in 11th grade, it's gonna be hard for me to make you a Division I player.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
But the good thing about college is you can be good at one thing, right? Yeah. And that's what that school needs, right? It's good not point. That you're better than all them other kids, but they just need a kid to do that one thing that you're good at. Yeah. So, you know, you can luck up, you know, that happens, not a lot, right? But you can luck up and that happens. But yeah, you have to be able to do the work and have reasonable, you know, you can't have a D1 goes with a JV work ethic, right?
100% agree, Coach. What's wrong with how kids train today?
Well, some kids not training, but they don't know they're not training. You know what I'm saying? I think, I don't know if you was that day in the gym that day when I was telling somebody or asking the kid, did you work out this weekend? Right? The kid said, oh, yeah, I worked out, Coach. Oh, yeah, I worked out. What'd you do? We won like 5 or 6 games in a row at the YMCA.
Yeah.
But you didn't work out.
Yeah.
You didn't work out.
Yeah.
Go back to that fight or flight thing. When you get in the anywhere you go to play ball on the weekends or whatever, and you're out there playing, you're not working on anything.
Yeah.
You're going to do them same bad habits or whatever it takes to win so you could keep playing.
Yeah.
But you got to take some time to yourself and really work on, if my left hand is weak, I got to spend time working on that. Or if my right hand or whatever is weak, or I can't shoot, I got to work on that. And you can't, if you take 1,000 shots and you got bad form, you just became real good at shooting it bad. I heard Jordan say that one time. You just became real good at shooting it bad.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to just, let's break it down and see where it's broke at and get you some reps in this so you can be comfortable at it, But they don't work out, man. And every person that could put out cones is not a trainer either. I see cats in the YMCA all the time training kids, and I'm looking at them like, maybe I should train you before you start touching that valuable merchandise right there and just teaching kids bad habits, and the kid goes on to learn bad. I don't have anything against trainers.
It's a lot of people taking money.
Yeah, right. I came up through the trenches being a trainer. I started off with 2 cones to, where I'm at today with training. But there's too many trainers out there. Not too many trainers, too many people trying to teach kids. I'm not going to say too many trainers.
Yeah, and I mean, and there's nothing wrong with like dumping something out your knowledge glass and saying, "Hey, let me work with somebody that knows what they're doing a little better than me," and then maybe and you actually like went and got training certifications and stuff like that as well. You've been to like schools.
Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah,
you got to invest in when you in kids' ears, coaching, training, or whatever. You can really mess that kid up. Yeah. If you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. So, and that's the last thing I want to do. Yeah. So I make sure that I go learn from the best. Even nowadays, if there's a coaching clinic, I'm not to the point to where I can't go learn from another coach. Yeah. Because the game is slowly evolving. But yeah, you got to get good too. What we tell the kids during the summer? Oh, go work out, go do this, go do that. Yeah. Okay, coach, what are you doing to get better?
For sure. For sure.
So
and most kids, going back to just hooping, the problem with just playing is, kid, 9 times out of 10 you're going to play to your strengths. Yeah. And you're not going to play to your weaknesses. If you're just hooping, you're going out there playing pickup, so you're going to be laying the ball up on the left side of the rim with your right hand, all of this little stuff that you can, just to win games. One of the things I loved about what Kobe said is, during the offseason when he did pickup games, he would play to his weaknesses. Right. I thought that was really unique. Shout out to Kobe Bean Bryant back there. We're going to talk a little bit about that
that's
too.
That's discipline right there.
That's discipline.
That's crazy discipline.
Yeah. Playing things
discipline.
but that takes a level of self-awareness as well. And, unfortunately, a lot of kids are delusional. I was a delusional kid at once, but, hey, so it's difficult to understand. Maybe I'm weak in this area. Maybe I need to train in this area. I guess unless somebody tells you. But even I got kids that I've told over and over and over again, you're weak right here. Right, and they still do the same things over and over. So your mind isn't fully developed
They don't
yet.
want to listen. Even with the kids, I was talking to a coach the other day. And he was telling me about a kid. I'm not gonna mention the kid. Yeah. But he was telling me about a kid that I know. From seeing him play, working out with him back in the past. And he said, "Oh yeah, such and such is pretty good." Right. So I asked him. I said, "Well, who are you comparing him to?" You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Who are you comparing him to say he's pretty good? Yeah. So and they get to hearing that, then they start thinking, I'm good. Train for what? You already told me I'm good. My mom and dad is saying I'm all this, and the highest score on my high school team. You know, this nobody's pushing them. Everybody's always validating them right at that level where they're at versus pushing them to be better.
For sure. Oh, man, I'm going to talk to you offline about that one. That's some good stuff, Coach. Some good stuff. What does a real development plan look like?
I would say in the gym, working on your game at least three nights a week. At least three.
Okay.
At least 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's okay to say, you know what? Let me go play some ball, see if I fix that. Right? Because as I develop confidence in this, right, I'm not afraid of that situation in the game anymore.
Yeah.
As I develop confidence in this,
Mm-hmm.
actually, I'm almost waiting for that situation to arrive so I can show how good I've gotten at doing this. Like I said, you got to build those habits, work on your body. You can't forget that part.
Work on your body.
You got to work on your body.
Yeah.
Because some of the things that I can ask you to do in training, if your body is not right, you're not gonna be able to do it anyway.
Good
So you're gonna miss that whole instruction. So work on the fundamentals of the game. The fundamentals of the game.
Yeah.
The fundamentals of the game.
Yeah.
And we'll be all right. If you look at who was that beat somebody at the buzzer last week?
Oh, that was you talking about Duke?
Duke got beat at the buzzer last week, right?
Yeah.
And I tell guys, stuff that they practice in October, they lost in March Madness with, right? The guy just why don't we fake up and throw a bounce pass, right? Overhead, everybody's going to jump at that.
Yeah.
Right? It's a fundamental.
Yeah.
Now we're out of the Final Four because of a fundamental. So work on the fundamentals and then grow your game. But if you don't have the fundamentals, you ain't going to get here without the fundamentals. The LeBrons and the Wembays, they come years apart.
Yeah.
But everybody else is just fundamentally sound.
Yeah. So, Coach, man, that's deep. But how do you fix a player who doesn't even know what they're doing wrong?
When I work with a kid, right, I want to make sure that kid knows that I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say because I want you to get better, right? And even with speaking, I always say, kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? And if I reach you, I can teach you, right? But I got to reach you first. And when I get a kid in the gym, here's what I see you do wrong, right? Do you think would I be right to think that, right? Just kind of have a little conversation. And even sometimes I ask them, what brought you here today? What do you want to work on? Just to see where they're at as far as, and then I just build them from there. Yeah. And as you're teaching them, after a while, they'll learn anything you want them to learn because they know that it's for the betterment of their game, right? I'm here for the outcome, not for the income. Yeah. I'm not going to get rich training you. 9 times out of 10, you're probably training for free anyway. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So it's not about the income, it's about the outcome. And once you develop that relationship, it leads to off the court. You know, you start off as a trainer. Before you know it, you're almost a dad to some kid or a big brother, a mentor. Yeah. Like I say, that's where it all starts with the relationship. And they'll trust what you. Yeah. If coach is telling me I need to work on that, he's probably right. Yeah. He's probably right.
For sure. So we're going to transition into program building and winning. So, Coach, you've built programs, right? Not just coach teams. What does it take to build a winning culture?
A winning culture. My first AAU team, I remember a guy, I was in the gym. When I first got here, you know, I was in the gym. You know, I knew that's where my people were at, you know, in the gym. And I remember a guy coming to ask me, would you be interested in coaching the AAU team? I was like, nah, I just got down here. You know, I just want to, you know, I'm in the gym because I like being in the gym, you know. And I started off with, I think they were in the 8th grade, the year I got them. And weren't very talented, right? Weren't very talented, weren't very skilled. But they wanted to learn the game of basketball.
Yeah.
They wanted to learn they wanted to learn the game of basketball. They had seen losing, and they wanted to learn the game of basketball. A lot of the kids that I first coached weren't on their middle school teams, right? So I kind of got them like that at that point till they were raw.
Yeah.
And if you could make something out of them, then eventually they'll go on to play high school basketball. And standards, held them to the standards. Practices at such and such time, right? Kind of like formation, right? When you get to practice, this is what you need to have on, kind of like being in uniform. So I brought a lot of my Army structure, into coaching the game of basketball and organizing and building teams. So the next year I had them from 9th grade. I took that team for like 3 years. So eventually we end up being like the ranked number 7 team in the nation Division II AAU basketball. But once I coached them and they started believing in what I was teaching them and what I wanted for them, like I said, it grew into relationships.
Yeah.
And I no longer had to find kids. Kids were finding me because they knew what came along with me. They knew they were going to get better and they weren't just going to be, running up and down the highway, just playing AAU games. They knew they was going to get better. I started my training programs then, so when we went on the road playing AAU, was in the gym training.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of got the mindset.
Yeah. And, man, a lot of stuff ties back to the Army. Shout out to the U.S. Army.
Right.
The Army is just different, man. The United States Army, man, it's just like as far as leadership, discipline, like all of that stuff. I mean, you transition into just like a natural leader and everything, just naturally, 24 years. That's why you feel very comfortable walking into anywhere and,
that's
implementing.
That's
a long time. So you have like that embedded in you to do that,
Yeah.
So, man, shout out to that, man, for just kind of like giving you an idea. I mean, if you were part of the U.S. Army, it's the best military in the world.
That's it.
That's a winning culture right there.
Man.
So shout out to the Army.
Learned so much, man.
So what do most coaches get wrong, in terms of like, building that winning culture? What do coaches get wrong?
That's deep right there, man. That's deep right there. Let me say, when I first started coaching, what I was getting wrong.
Oh, okay. There you go.
What I was getting wrong.
Yeah.
I thought starting off that if I wasn't hollering or talking, I wasn't coaching. I thought I wasn't coaching. Just watching, coaches on TV or going places and watching, but until eventually I learned that I want to get to the point where I'm talking less and those things are happening on the floor. I don't even have to talk them through that. But go left, go right, throw the ball right there, throw the ball right there. I almost had them like robots. And that in turn stunted their growth. As basketball players, that kind of stunted their growth because it didn't leave room for creativity. I would say it didn't leave room for creativity and allow them to use the talent that they had on the court. So I was always directing. Boom, go here, bro, shoot it, go here, pass the side. When I first started off and I eventually learned people don't come to the game to watch us. So you got some coaches, they want to be 43 south, 2 north, run double XY, 41. That's just want to show off, man. Let if the players, I believe in letting athletes be athletes. Even today, if you get out of control, then I know how to get us back under control. But I'm gonna let talent do what talent do. Like I said, if we get out of control or we need a special situation, I'm good enough to put in a situation to get the result out of it that we need to get out of. But I don't like to manage every step that the players take on the court. And I think a lot of coaches, get wrapped up in that and get wrapped up into all this calling 100 plays or, 300 plays. And, the players are out there, they're out there thinking versus using their creativity. That's why they're failing.
Yeah, I mean, especially for some great players, they say, the certain great players. What's the old saying that the only person that can stop this great player is the coach?
That's it.
And all that
Yep.
kind of stuff. So yeah, or
Yep.
or who could stop Michael Jordan with Dean Smith? That's what they were saying about MJ
Only person can
at
stop.
college.
That's the only person can stop.
So what's the difference between a winning team, coach, and a championship team?
A winning team, you can win if the road is right.
Yeah.
If the road to the championship is right, you could win.
Like
But
the Lakers schedule recently.
a championship team will be there every time because they have it's a culture, it's a habit, it's a system, right? They'll be there every time. A winning team, like say, you might get 5 freshmen that are All-American and you come in and win, and then they're gone, and then you don't hear no more about that school, or you'll hear no more about that program. But the championship programs, their systems that they have in place, their rules, their structure, it's a championship environment every year. When you come here, when you look at some schools, let's just use USC, the Carolina girls. When you go there, all that you were back in high school, the number one or whatever, right? I was averaging 40 or whatever. Just know when you come here, you're going to be averaging 6 if you're lucky, right? And that could be hard for some players, but that's just how we built here. That's why we're in the championship every year, because we get people to buy into what we do here. And I think that's the biggest difference between a winning team and a championship program.
Got you. Deep. Good stuff, Coach. So St. Michael, working with the kids over at St. Michael, we've coached together, right?
Right.
What do you enjoy about working with the kids over at St. Michael?
The kids at St. Michael. St. Michael is the
Shout out to
first.
St. Mike.
Yeah, St. Mike Warriors. You're on the lookout for us. St. Michael's is the first private school that I've actually coached at. And there is a difference between a private school and a public school. I really believe that as far as sports. So coming into St. Mike's, I looked at them as a private school, right? So I expected the same mindset that any other private school would have, because I'm just comparing it to a private school. I'm not even at the athlete's talent level yet. You're saying it's a private school. When you hear people say they coach at a private school, it kind of gives them a leg up a little bit. Because we expect the talent level to be there. We expect the talent, the standards and all that to be there based off the other private schools that we have seen work. And one of the things I like about the St. Mike's kids are, we're not the Paula Six group or the Bishop O'Connell group, but if we trust the process, we can get there. We get there, and it's about building. It's about building and getting the school name out there and getting some of the kids that are going way up there to play for those private schools. Say, hey, we got a private school right here in Fredericksburg. Stay right here and play. But we got to make sure we're doing things right, because I don't want to get a kid here and not take care of him when he could have went to another place and maybe end up getting a college scholarship or whatever. But the kids here, they haven't been coached at the level the coaching staff was this year. I mean, you got to admit, we were a better coaching staff this year, not because I was there, but because you were there. So they got to get used to that mindset that we bring to the table, to where we're bringing it to where we know we're supposed to be better than a public school, right? But you got to be willing to let us teach you how to be better than the public school. All that coaching you were getting back at your public school, right? You're probably going to hear things a lot of things different here, because we're trying to push you to a new level of private school basketball. So they're getting used to us, and we're getting used to them.
For sure.
Right? But once we create the culture, and the culture will hit them before they even step foot into the high school, so they'll know what they're coming into.
Yeah. So, you've been doing this for a long time, Coach. Why do you still do this after 20 plus years?
I always say, I just want to be that person I wish I had growing up. And everything I do, even with my motivational speaking and all that kind of coaching, training. If I had me growing up, right, we'd be sitting on a yacht somewhere doing this because we'd have made millions of dollars. But I don't like when it kind of gets to me even at this age because I'm not training as much because I'm coaching all the time, so I don't get a lot of time to train as much as I would like to train. If I had to choose the two, I would be a trainer. If I had to choose between the two, because I think that's a more I can make an impact on the kid's life that way. Yeah. Versus coaching.
Yeah.
But I like training kids because if you think you can do it, right, I'll give you a shot. If you think you can do it, let's work. If you're gonna come in and do the work or whatever, or you get a kid that this kid can play, man, but somebody just needs to work with him. I like to be that person and say, you know what? Let me help you get to where you're trying to get to. And I know I can't help everybody. It took me a long time to learn that. One of the ladies with our AAU program said, Coach G, you can't help everybody, man. Because, just like in the Army, I thought everybody was trainable.
Yeah.
But I like seeing kids learn what they don't know. You ever see that little bell go off?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's like
that's
magic.
why they do that.
Yeah.
So I like learning, and even with training and coaching, I can't take all this knowledge with me when I go. Yeah. So, I'm just trying to dump it and pour it into people, man. And, you be the next person to help all these kids or whatever.
Yeah. Sometimes, that's, I feel like God, it's a funny way of doing things. It's like, you go through the trials and tribulations and, you pass that information down to the next generation. I definitely agree with you about, wishing you had somebody like you.
Yeah.
That's 100%. Like, I think I say that all the time. I say it to my son. I say it to kids. Like, I wish.
Right.
I wish,
so
I try to be what I wish that I had, and the words of the great American philosopher Frederick Douglass, it's easier to build strong children than to fix broken men. So, it's really, it's much easier to do. Yeah. That's Freddie D.
My tablet.
What do kids actually need from coaches today?
Honesty. Right. Be honest with the kid, and not just use the kid to make for the betterment of you.
Yeah.
All right. For example, you get a kid, probably needs a lot of work.
Yeah.
But just come help me win some games. What I'm saying? Never mind your development, whatever. Just come help me win some games. And as an AAU coach, every year we'd have like a parent meeting. And one of the things I used to always tell my parents, because as I got late in my AAU years, I was coaching an 11th grade team. We used to call it a college-bound team, to where, we went out there and was chasing scholarships. And I used to always tell the parent to where we're not going to be undefeated. We're not going to lose every game, but we're not going to be undefeated. Because we're going to play against people better than us. Intentionally. We're going to play against people better than us. So, coaches need to let a kid know that. Hey, this is where you're at. If you come back here next year the same player, you might not make this team. And the coach will bring the player back year after year after year, year, instead of finding out, what do I got to do to get this guy to go to training? You know what? I'm going to come take you to training. Because when you get better, guess whose team get better? My team.
Yeah, for sure.
My team gets better. So me investing in you is really making my team better. But a lot of coaches don't have that mindset. Some coaches don't even talk to their players the whole summer. They see them when it's time for the fall league.
Yeah.
And it's too late. That kid done wasted a whole summer, and now you hollering at him for not being better.
Yeah.
You know, he had no accountability in the home.
Yeah.
Because mom and dad always thought you were good enough, so there wasn't no accountability in the home. Didn't play AAU.
Yeah.
Didn't work out.
And you never know what's going on in the kid's life.
Right.
You know, I had to learn that. You know, with me kind of growing up in a similar situation, like, you know, I still remember some of those coaches that I had that would take me to games and all of that stuff. You know, I really leaned on those guys. Understanding that you never know what their situation is at home, what they're going through. So, you know, kids come to us all the time behind the scenes with issues. You know, being able to sit down and talk to them. You know, we used to be there once upon a time, right?
when you're a good coach, kids remember you.
Yeah,
they remember you. They might not remember how many wins and losses they had, but they remember how you made them feel.
Yeah, great point.
They'll respect you for the rest of their life.
Great point, which is a good transition because my next question: are we building basketball players or building young men and women?
Depending on the program. That's a good question because it depends on the program. Some people are just about, or some coaches are just about wins and losses. Wins and losses. But when you build a program, development and all that, you're going to win. It's like automatically.
Yeah.
You know, they say byproduct or what, you know, whatever that phrase is, but you're going to win. As a high school coach, right? Especially in the in the public school arena, I'm gonna make sure that my kid or my player is training over the summer, right? I'm checking on him to see if he's training because you know how we said kids will come tell you they've been training, they've been running in the YMCA all summer. I'm gonna check on them to make sure they're training. I want to know who they're training with just to kind of see the validation of what kind of trainer is this guy. I want to talk to that trainer and say, hey, this is what I think he needs to work on so he can be better coming back next year. We're going to have a good relationship with the coach and that trainer because I want this kid to get better so next year we can be better. And coaches are not doing that. You know, it's almost like we're working against each other sometimes. So where I don't want you working out with them, and it's really because I don't want you to see my deficiencies.
Yeah.
You know, if this kid's a starter on my team and he works out with you and he's not really, really good, that tells me a lot about you as the coach. So a lot of them try to keep that in a secret because they don't want you to see their weaknesses. When we really need to be working together.
For sure. I want to transition and talk about the Fredericksburg Grizzlies.
Yes. Back-to-back champions.
Back-to-back champions, you know, and I had the privilege of being able to come check you guys out, you know. So with the Grizzlies, you guys went back-to-back. What do you think separates a championship program? Well, I guess, you know, from a championship program and a good team at the local level, like, you know, like, what separates? I guess you kind of answered that already.
No, go ahead, because I want to peel that back, you know.
Yeah. So like the Grizzlies, you know, you went back to back. So basically, what do you think separates a championship program from a good team at the local level?
I started with the Grizzlies. I was a fan of the Grizzlies before I was a coach of the Grizzlies.
Okay.
You know, so I used to go watch them play because they had a lot of the good local kids that were playing in the area and some out of town kids. So you know, I would go watch them play, and I always felt that the talent was there, but not the discipline. You know, that was just from me on the outside looking in, that the
common denominator tonight, discipline.
Right, that the talent was there, but not the discipline. And discipline, that's kind of like one of my strong suits, you know, and it's you know, I use that word carefully because when some people say discipline is, well, you probably holler a lot or something like that, or very strict. Now, that's not where I'm going with the discipline, please. So maybe about 5 years ago, I would say, they were looking for a new head coach, right? And at this time, I'm just coaching high school here, coaching high school there, just getting opportunities, get some reps under my belt, coaching high school. And I was doing a lot of training. So Q, Q, the little point guard.
Shout out to Q.
Yeah. He called me up one day and said, Coach G, the Grizzlies looking for a new head coach. You should come coach us, right? Something that I was doing, right? Or some way that I was carrying myself made him think that I should come be the coach of that team, right? So we never had a conversation about it. But so something he seen me do or a way he seen me act, he felt that I should come be the coach of that team. But at the time, I was coaching high school basketball. I think I was coaching down at Brook Point, the girls' team. So I really didn't have time because eventually the owner, Vince, came around and asked me, I guess they got together, and then the word finally got to me and said, actually, I want to coach. So I was like, nah, because I'm busy doing such and such. I got high school, and then I'm doing training. I said, but I will come work out with him some nights. I will come work out with him some nights. So they end up finding another coach. And first time I meet the coach, we're at the tryouts. A good guy, Coach Brown. We're at the tryouts. First time I meet him. So we talk, and I tell him, look, I can help out every now and then. This is what I could bring to the table. I can't be here every night. Got a lot of stuff going on. So they were cool with that. And that turned into me being off training night, the night they practice. What a coincidence, right? So I can remember I was getting off the train at Brook Point, the VRE at Brook Point. I would go to practice at Brook Point because I was coaching the girls, and then I would leave there and go to Chancellor to work out with the Grizzlies team. So that was like 2 or 3 nights a week. I was going to do that. Before you know it, I was sitting on the bench. Right? So
that's how it happened.
Now I fell into this assistant coach role. So I did that for 2 years. And then 3 years ago, 3 years ago, not including this season, I ended up being the head coach. The other guy was wanted to spend some more time with his family, so I ended up being moved from the assistant coach to the head coach. So my first year, and them being around me already, it wasn't a real, because they knew what I was bringing to the table coming in. So they knew I was a disciplined guy. You got to represent the brand. These are the standards. I don't allow that. I don't allow that. I don't allow that. I don't allow that. If we're good with that, we ain't gonna have no problem with each other. So first year came in, we end up being the 7th seed going into the playoffs and made it all the way to the championship game. End up losing the championship game. So come back the next year, I think the next year we're like the 4 seed or something. That year, I end up getting a coach of the year that year. That next year, we make it back to the championship again. End up losing by 3 in the championship, 2 or 3 in the championship. So these are back-to-back losses in the championship. My first 2 years as the head coach. And I can remember we were in Savannah when we lost our 2nd championship. And I can remember my moment in Savannah to where I got to the point to where I was wondering, where am I failing at? Where am I failing at? Because I'm failing these guys. We're getting to the championship, and I'm not getting them past the championship for 2 years in a row. I still remember in that locker room, man. I just cried because I didn't have the answer. I didn't. I did what I knew to do, or as best as I could do, but I still didn't get them the championship. So I can remember saying, if God give me one more chance, I'm going to get this thing right. I said, I don't know what he's trying to teach me or what lesson I need to get out of this, but I needed this lesson. That I'm here because I needed this lesson. It wasn't because of nothing that I did or didn't do. I needed this. God needed to teach me this lesson that He's teaching me right now. That next year we came back. I think last year we were something like 17-0, something like that. 17-0. End up winning the championship. This year I think we were like 12-1 and winning the championship. So, I got a pretty good, I don't like to brag or anything, but, I got a pretty good resume, going into this team been here for about 20 years. And
wow.
No, I wouldn't say 20. That's a long time. Maybe 10, 12-ish or somewhere between 7 and 10, 11-ish. This is the first time we ever won the whole thing. So, yeah. And I got my second Coach of the Year award. So, every now and then I toot my own horn. So.
You got to, man. You got to, it's perfectly fine. So going back to back, Coach, that is not easy. How did you keep the players locked in and hungry after already winning once?
The players that I've coached this year, and most of them came back from last year. We didn't have a real big turnover rate. I knew everybody the previous year wasn't going to make the team this year. And every year you have fall-offs, because people with their jobs or family or whatever. But I knew if I brung back the core of what we were doing, right? See, this when you're developing a good program to where my team or the team this year, they were more player-led than coach-led. That's when you got a good team when it's player-led.
Yeah.
They were more player-led. They knew my standards.
Yeah.
They knew how I was going to let them play.
Yeah.
They knew what I wasn't going to let them do. And they carried that. Like I say, a lot of times all I had to do was make sure we stayed organized and make sure everybody knew everything in case I needed to tell them to do something. But it was player-led. And coming back this year, it's almost like you had 6 Coach G's on the team because they weren't going to let no new people come in and mess up what they already built. And their mindset was, we're just going to smash people and get on the bus and go home. That's what their mindset was. We're coming to smash you and then get on the bus and go home.
Wow. Shout out to the Grizzlies, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Y'all did some pretty cool stuff. You got some hoopers on that team, man. They play well as a team. Like, yeah, man.
One of the best team I ever coached.
Wow. Shout out to them. Salute to the Grizzlies one more time.
That's it.
So we're going to transition into this next segment. Real talk. We got a real talk segment.
Let's talk about that part.
Now, Coach G, real talk. Are kids today working hard enough?
No. No. Well, you know why?
Why is that, Coach?
Because we're not pushing them hard enough.
That's true.
We're too worried about
100%.
their feelings
versus,
dude, you'll thank me later.
Yeah.
One day you're going to look up in the stands and I'm going to be watching you play college basketball and you're going to say, thanks, Coach G.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah, we don't. People scared to push him because they think if I push him too hard, I might lose him.
Yeah.
But if you don't push him, you're going to lose him anyway.
No, you're 100% right about that. No, I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that, man. It's one of those things like, I always tell kids, I say, hey, listen, man, time is on my side. You're going to come back and thank me in the future anyway. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't do it now, like, listen, as you grow older and become a man, time is on my side. So this is something that you'll eventually do, so.
I appreciate it in the long run.
Yeah, in the long run.
Coach is scared to. I see so many coaches, man, to where if your best player on your team hasn't bought into what you're trying to do, you're done.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah.
And that's the person that you should be able to push the most.
Yeah.
But a lot of coaches are too scared. Well, I don't want to push him because he might leave here and go to another school.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to push him because he might quit the team.
Yep.
Nah.
Yeah.
Push him.
Push him. I agree.
Push him.
I agree.
Good hoopers want to be coached.
I agree.
They want to be coached.
I 100% agree. Now, leads me to my next question. Do parents help or hurt more? Real talk segment.
I tell parents this. One thing I'm not going to do is come busting up in your house and tell your kid to take the trash out. Right? And one thing you're not going to do, come busting up in here and tell me how to train your kid.
Yep, good point. Right? I love that analogy. I haven't used that one.
Oh, yeah. So when he's in here, let me do what I do.
Yeah.
If you're not comfortable with what I do or you're not getting the results of what I do, and take them, I would tell you, take them moving somewhere else, and maybe you get the results that you're expecting them on. But yeah, because not a lot of parents will tell you about the flaw in their kid's game.
For sure.
You know, even when I was coaching AAU, and a parent come up to me and say, "Yeah, I want such to play with you." Okay, cool. Is he any good? Oh yeah, he could play. He could play. He's really good. He's played for this school and he's played for his middle school team. See, that's their. Who are you comparing them to?
Right.
Nobody.
Yeah.
So every parent's gonna say their kid is good.
Rose-colored glasses for their kids, 100%.
So yeah, they're more of a. Not all parents, but most.
Yeah.
Are more of, because that's your kid.
Yeah.
That's your kid.
Yeah.
It takes a strong parent to tell another trainer or whatever. He's weak at going left. He needs to work on. He needs to work on. To really dissect and say, this is what my kid really needs to work on. Yeah. He's okay, but he'll be better if you help me fix this stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of parents don't.
We don't got them old school Joe Jacksons out there.
Right. They won't do that. So they'll be more of inheritance nowadays.
Is AAU helping or hurting development?
Hurting.
I think that's kind of evident when you look at like the NBA, for example, and then you see all of these guys coming over from Europe, like, and they're like so developed.
That's why the world is catching up.
Yeah.
To the NBA game because they are developing their players over there.
Yeah.
Over here,
play a lot of 3-on-3.
We're just playing a lot. We just go up and down the highway. 3 games. Now it's time to try out for your high school basketball team. There's no development being done.
Yeah.
So, I'm a fan of AAU. Because I've coached and I've seen the system work. But with the way the recruiting is nowadays, I think it really kills the AAU program. And if you really look at it, and I was looking at a little tournament thing that I was looking at for my program. There's not a lot of AAU tournaments. There are a lot of travel ball tournaments. Yeah. And some people don't know the difference between an AAU tournament and a travel ball tournament. The AAU tournament is a tournament sponsored by the AAU.
Okay.
If you go now, you got Nike got some, Puma got some, Big Shot got some, Under Armour got some, Run and Shoot. Everybody got their own little thing now to where they're not really, falling under the AAU umbrella. Like back in the day, everything was. You went to an AAU tournament, played by AAU rules and the AAU standards and all that. But there's too much basketball, not enough development with our kids now. And our kids spend the whole summer up and down the highway, 3 games, killing their body. Next weekend, 3 to 4, maybe even 5 if they go to the loser bracket trying to come back up and win. That's too much.
Yeah.
Too much wear and tear on the body without any development recovery.
Yeah. No, I mean, you see it too, like a lot of the injuries and stuff. By the time guys get in the collegiate and at the professional level, guys are tearing their Achilles and, and I know we got a faster game, but guys are tearing ACLs, all kind of stuff. There's way more injuries now, like season enders, you see you guys like Zion and, all of these guys coming in and it's like they got so much wear and tear in their body, by the time they get there. So I really do like the AAU programs where they're having practices,
right?
And they have like skill development, like the development programs,
and some type of weight thing too.
Where yes,
so you got, like I said, those muscles prevents a lot of injuries.
Yeah,
if you got the right muscle structure, you can prevent a lot of them injuries. But you just going out there and play 3 to 5 games, and some teams have good practices. Some teams just walk in the gym and the coach tells them to run these plays, and that was practice, and then you run up and down. That was practice to where they never worked on anything else.
Yeah, for sure. My next question, Coach. Is social media killing real development?
Yep. That too. That too.
Yeah.
Likes,
Yeah.
likes.
Yeah.
Likes. It's all about the likes.
Yeah.
That's it. It's all about the likes.
You gotta
And
have a bag and all that stuff.
they don't know that. I'll say this. At the age I'm at, if I went into the gym and played 10 games,
Mm-hmm.
I could make a 30-second highlight reel. It'll probably be the only 4 things I did right the whole 10 games. But I can make a highlight reel.
Yeah.
And that's what these kids are doing. And
Yeah.
they see the highlight reel, and then you walk in the gym like, oh, he's nice. Dude,
Yeah.
that's from,
Yeah.
I tell kids, well, you know how you say, well, send some film to some coaches or whatever? I used to tell kids, if I got to go 3, 4, 5 games to get enough film of you to send to a coach, you probably ain't doing something right. You probably ain't doing something right.
Yeah.
I should be able to get a film, a game of 2 games max. If I wanted to send some film of you to a college coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's killing them, man, because all they're seeing is that one.
You can
little
tell
clip.
who's playing winning basketball.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long to tell
Doesn't
if you're
take
playing
long.
for highlights or you playing for winning basketball. You know, LaMelo Ball is kind of like that. Like he's kind of like, you know, he looks good on highlights,
Yeah.
but it's like, is he playing winning basketball?
He's been lucky enough though to where his coach that in pros
Yeah.
have let him be mellow.
Yeah.
A
That's true.
lot of coaches. I mean, you look at that team,
Yeah.
they're not winning anyway.
That's
So
true.
what he's
That's
doing,
true.
not winning.
He's selling tickets too.
Yeah, right. So some coaches, their coach have found a way to let him be him and stay, still play within the with the system.
All right. So now we got our rapid fire section, Coach. Rapid fire. You know, we're not
What
going
they
to take
told
too
me
long.
about.
We're going to give an answer. Old school or new school?
Old school.
Old school.
Right.
For sure. I'm not surprised about that one. I'm not surprised about that one. Jordan or LeBron?
Kobe.
Ah! Shout out to Kobe Bean, yo. Like, yeah, nah, like Kobe was. I didn't appreciate Kobe as much as I should have until like the last couple of years of his career, man. Kobe was the truth.
Yeah.
The absolute truth.
If I had to pick, I'd probably pick Jordan.
Okay.
Yeah, if I
Okay.
had to pick.
I'm not mad at that, even though LeBron is the GOAT.
Yeah, based on his body of work. Though. Yeah, I'd pick
And I was going to say, my next question was Kobe or everybody?
Yeah, Kobe was my guy, man. His game and his work ethic, and that's one of the best stories in basketball. You know, if you follow Kobe's story, because this guy came in the game. You know, when you look the best in the eyes,
Yeah.
and say, "I'm gonna be better than you,"
Yeah.
you're a bad man. Because you got work to do.
And he had work, and we saw him work to it.
Yeah.
LeBron came in as a natural, but it's all good though. We ain't gonna talk about that another day.
Right, exactly.
Big man game. All right. Bigs, high post or low post?
Low post.
Low post? Yeah. Okay.
That's where I made my money at. Down in the trenches, baby.
Down in the trenches. Face up or back to the basket?
Back to the basket.
Okay. Yeah. Big man game. Traditional big or stretch big?
Traditional.
Okay. Yeah. Shaq probably came in there and pushed everybody out.
Right.
He might have changed the big man game.
Yeah.
Now you said we talked about actually we didn't talk about this one guy. Ewing or Hakeem?
Hakeem. Yeah.
That's kind of an easy one.
Yeah, Hakeem.
That's kind of an easy one.
Hakeem was talented. Now, I would say Hakeem was skilled and Ewing was talented.
Yeah. Now, I agree with that.
And it goes back to that, the foreigners.
Yeah.
He grew up learning the footwork and
soccer
and all, that kind of stuff.
Footwork
Patrick
was ridiculous.
Patrick probably didn't learn about footwork until he got to Georgetown.
Yeah. Now, you talked about Georgetown earlier. We were talking about the Big East. Shout out to Georgetown.
That's it. No Hoyas.
The Georgetown Bigs. Ewing, Mutombo, or Morning?
I got to go with Morning.
Zoe?
Yeah, Zoe had a little midi on him. Yeah.
He
You
did.
only developed one, but Mutombo never was a shooter.
No.
He was more of a defensive guy.
Those
Morning-
Georgetown Bigs tried to block everything too,
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
they? They
Oh,
got
yeah.
dunked on because they tried to block
Tried to
everything.
block everything.
They blocked and challenged and way more shots and or even fouled and stopped a dunk more than they got dunked on. But
Right.
the highlights do live forever.
Right.
The one with Vince Carter was crazy.
But they like you said, they weren't scared though.
No,
Kids
they weren't.
nowadays won't even contest because they get scared.
Yeah.
And get back on that social media thing.
That's winning basketball.
Yeah.
That's winning basketball. No, you're right. You're right. Okay. Development. AAU or skill development?
Skill development. Skill development. All day.
All day.
All day.
Camps or private training?
Private training.
Okay. Yeah. Eye test or analytics?
Eye test.
Okay. Yeah. I like that.
The numbers, just say if my numbers was I averaged 40, right? But I averaged 40 because I was playing against kids that are 5'10",
Yeah.
right? So my numbers can be blurred to where, okay, let me go see how he's averaging 40.
Talent or work ethic?
Work ethic.
Okay.
Yeah. Hard work, big talent. When talent doesn't work hard, right?
Yep. Now, culture. Tough love or player-friendly coaching?
Tough love.
Tough love.
Yeah. Because tough love turns into player friendly, but it can't be reversed.
Practice player or game player?
Game player all day. All day.
We know some of those, don't we?
That's it. That's it.
We don't want to put no names out there.
Practice All-Americans.
Yeah.
When the lights come on,
Leader
talent goes away.
or bucket getter?
Leader. Yeah. I can find a bucket getter. But I can't find a leader.
Yeah.
When you see one of them, you better hold on. It like the point guard that I got for the Grizzlies team. He's one of the best floor leaders that I really ever coached.
Yeah.
Because he knows the game, and he turns people into bucket getters. He turns skilled people into bucket.
We got to get him around the kids.
Yeah. So definitely a leader.
Dogs or skilled players?
Dogs. Dogs.
Dogs.
Dogs minimize skilled players.
Okay. Now, we're going to go into a little bit of fun and personal. Favorite player growing up?
I would say Dr. J. Mo Cheeks.
Okay, the doctor.
Dr. J. Mo Cheeks. I was a Sixers fan
Okay.
growing up in Jersey.
Oh, yeah. I went to a game over there, as a matter of fact, when Gerald Green caught right when they were in Newark, right before they left.
Yeah.
He caught like that crazy
Oh,
alley
yeah,
in the
yeah,
Celtics
yeah,
game. You
yeah,
know what I'm talking
yeah,
about?
yeah.
Yeah. Favorite coach?
My favorite coach was coach I had when I was playing on the post team in Germany.
Okay.
Coach Lyons. He really taught me about coaching.
Hardest worker you've ever coached?
I would say the hardest worker that I've ever coached was a kid named Miko.
Okay.
Wasn't very talented, but unmatched work ethic.
Shout out to Miko.
Yeah, unmatched work ethic. Yeah, that was it.
Pet peeve in players?
I got a few of them. Trying to think which one is most important. if I teach you to do it, you need to do it.
I've heard you say that before.
Right. If I haven't
I've heard
taught you
that.
it, then you got a little leeway. But if I teach you something, I expect you to know how to do it. Yeah, so that's kind of one of my pet peeves.
And then we're gonna close. What's your mission? What's your mission right now, Coach G?
I'm getting to the point in my career now. I'll start with on the court, to where I still want to be a mentor, right? Even at the coaching level, I had a good mentor, Coach Booth, and I want coaches to see me and learn something about coaching, and not be intimidated to where it's okay that you didn't know and I knew. Some coaches have a problem with that, but I want coaches to know that, that I work with, that I'm not trying to show you up or to show that you're here and I'm here. I'm here. I want to make sure I give you this nugget before I go, and now you got it, so you can keep on spreading that nugget down. So I still want to train, but there's not many more years that I'm gonna be out there banging and running around with these kids. So, I want to teach other trainers how to train, so that they can, let's
keep it going.
Yeah. We got to keep it going. So that's kind of where I'm at in my coaching and training where I'm just trying to mentor and help and all the people that I can.
Yeah. And what do you want your legacy to be in the basketball community?
That if you were serious about the game, Coach G would help. If you're serious about the game of basketball, Coach G would do all he can to help you get to your max. I'm not gonna get everybody into college, but I may make you a better middle school player or better high school player. So if you were serious about the game and wanted to learn, he'd do anything that he could to help you get better.
For sure, man. It's been a pleasure, Coach G.
Hey, man.
It's been a long time coming, man. We've been trying to sit down for a while.
Yeah.
We got Tom Brick. Who's the go-to-goats? Who's the go-to-goats?
We got TB12 and KB24. or we got K-Date, Kobe 8. That's a good one though. It requires a different skill set, right? And a mindset. And a mindset. Because football, if you look at football, the one thing about football, while we're talking about it, that's really one of the only sports to where you reset after every play. So you could kind of stop and plan out your next move. Whereas basketball, you got to plan out your next move, plan out your next move, plan out your next move. So, Tom was great at that, but could he have thought in this game to where, the ball is constant,
They got to play defense.
Yeah, if Kobe had to think in that game, he'd be just as dangerous.
I think so.
Yeah, he'd be just as dangerous.
I think so. I think the mindset of those guys would have made them successful regardless, their mindset. And they both got the most out of their physical attributes as well. Kobe wasn't the most athletic. Neither is he's definitely
wasn't.
Kobe had small hands. He could barely palm a ball coming in until he got strong enough.
Studied their craft, man.
Studying their craft.
And their enemy.
Yes.
And their enemy.
Good point. Got the hardware right here that we didn't get to mention. 2026.
A 2026 trophy. This is my Coach of the Year award.
Okay.
I think my point guard got the other trophy from last year.
Okay.
And I told him I'm gonna keep the one from this year.
Yeah.
But it was just pretty good, man. I've had a good few years in basketball, but that's a process, man. I didn't fall down from heaven. I came up from hell. You know, I like to tell people
man,
that
that's
story.
a great saying.
I did my work, man. I've been on the sidelines of 2 and 21 teams.
Yep.
And I've been on the sideline of 17 and 0 teams. So, you know, I did my work, man. It's not easy, but if you do the work, man, you get there. Like I said, if you do the work, and it's really what you want to do.
For sure, man. It's been a pleasure, Coach. You know, I definitely look up to you, man. I learned a lot from you, and I look forward to learning more from you here in the near future. And, man, to the next time.
Thanks, man.
Yes, sir.
Keep doing what you're doing, man.
Appreciate it,
Keep doing
man.
what you're doing.
I'll see you at training on Monday.
That's it. Back in the lab.
Yeah.
This episode of The Pulse Rise podcast is sponsored by Pulse, Rise CPR and First Aid. Training for the moments that matter most, when every second counts. Be ready. Be ready.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the Pulse Rise podcast, training for the moments that matter most. Thank you.